Hello, we're back with Barren Victory. This is my Bragg's fantasy scenario, and in the last video we left off with it was the Confederate phase of the 1530 turn, and we finished all of our close combats. So we finished the movement and close combat phase, and now we're in the fire combat phase. So we've got a lot of fire combats to do, and first we'll do the non-phasing player fire combat attacks, and then we'll do the phasing player, the Confederate player attacks. So let's just first let's get these. The first fire attacks we can do are uh, it's optional, of course, but there's no reason for the Union to not uh, fire on the Confederates. So this unit will first attack this unit here. Um, this unit here has C morale level, and the attacking unit has B fire level. So we're going to be on the 2 column on the fire combat table. We're on this column here. Roll our 2 and no modifiers. Shaken does not affect the fire combat, but it does affect morale as well. The morale result, as we'll see. Oh, actually, we're firing here on here, so I don't believe that there's a morale state. Nope. Oh, it's bloodlusted even. Okay, well that will definitely affect things. But anyways, so let's roll the fire combat. Roll the 2d6 here. And we rolled a 6. So that's a morale check. But the defending unit is bloodlusted. Oh wait, we don't roll 2d6. What am I thinking? I'm rusty. We need to roll our combat dice here. So we rolled an 8 actually on the 2 columns, so that's 1 permanent loss. Rounding dice is irrelevant. Straggler roll of 3 with the C morale is 1, so that's 1 permanent loss and 1 straggler result on Clayton. And then we'll just do the morale result right away. Clayton is bloodlusted, so we're on the bloodlust morale check, and there's no effect. So we need to enter 1 permanent loss. Permanent loss and a straggler result for Clayton, and that takes Clayton down to A fire combat level and only 3 more losses away from being wrecked. Oh, and furthermore, we also need to do a leader loss roll. So here we roll a 2d12. Rolled an 8, so Stewart is safe. but this counter comes off. So we're done there, and now now King, who has at A fire level and 5 points of artillery, will fire on Bait, who has morale level A and is shaken. So we're at range 1, so A is 4 here, and 5 gun points at range 1 is 5. So we're on the 9 column here, on this column here. Rolled a 10. So that's 2 permanent losses. Rounding dice is irrelevant. Straggler roll of 6. We're on this table here. And morale level of A on a roll of 6 is 1 straggler. So that's 2 permanent losses and 1 straggler. We'll do the morale check really quick here. So A fire level, shaken means you go down 1 level or 1 row, so we're on this table here. And a 51 is on the no effect, so there's no morale effect. So the end result is we need to enter our 2 permanent losses and 1 straggler for Bait. So the losses are piling up there. So we finished our non-phasing fire combat up here, so let's move down here. So my general approach in this system is to fire at many units as possible rather than like concentrating fire. Well, it depends a little bit on the situation, but generally speaking, I like to fire at as many units as possible, because each fire combat attack generates an opportunity for the enemy to be forced to retreat. And the morale rolls, you've probably noticed already if you've been watching my videos. The morale results are independent of the amount of fire in the attack. The morale roll is completely, and its results is completely independent of the fire combat die rolls. So I think the approach I want to take here with the Union is to try to force back as many Confederate units as I can, which means I want to fire on as many units as I can. So I'll have this unit fire on this one on this one. This artillery can fire independently on this unit here. In the Civil War Brigade series, when you're firing along a hex side here, the presence of a friendly unit on one of the hex sides does not block the line of sight. If there were also a Union unit here, then the line of sight would be blocked, but not with just a unit on one of the 2 hex on one side of the line of sight hex side. So this artillery can fire on here, and then we'll kind of have a little bit of a choice with respect to this. Do we want the fire to go here or here? My instinct is he's a B, he's an AB, so we'll have the fire. Well, but this unit really doesn't have line. I'm still going to have him fire on this one just because there's a bigger unit to potentially push back, and then he will fire on here, and then these counters together are a unit. So this will fire. It doesn't really matter. Um, well, actually, it does matter a little. Well, no, it doesn't. For fire combat, it doesn't matter. It might matter a little bit for close combat, but not for fire. So let's do all those fire combats. So we'll go from north to south, basically. So Carlin has a fire level and 2 artillery strength points, firing against this A morale level unit here, Robertson. So 4 plus 2 at range 1 is 2 more, so that's 6. So we're on the 6th column on the fire combat table here. Roll to 6. So that's 1. Straggler dice is irrelevant. Sorry, rounding dice is irrelevant. Straggler roll of 1 on a morale A level is going to be no straggler. So a total of 1 permanent loss, and morale roll of 26 on an A level is going to be no effect. So Robertson takes 1 permanent loss. So now Heg with a fire level and 3 artillery strength points will fire on Benning and the leader Law. So that's 4 plus 3 is 7. So we're on this column here. Roll to 6. So it's 1 permanent loss. Rounding die is again irrelevant. Straggler roll of 4. Forgot to check the morale level here. He's a B. So 1 permanent loss. Whoops. B and 1 straggler. And a morale result of 53. Results in a shaken. Oh, I forgot to... I noticed something the other day that I have not been doing correctly. Let me go back here. Actually, doesn't. This applies when artillery is the receiving fire, not giving it. So skip that for now. So we said 1 loss and 1 straggler and a shaken. So let's do our 1 loss and 1 straggler for Benning. Just 1 loss from being reduced to B fire level. And now we have to roll on our leader loss table for law. Roll 2d6. Rolled an 8, so he's safe. So that's that fire combat. And now these two artillery points will fire on McNair. So 2 artillery at range 2 is just 1, so it's a very weak fire. So we're on this table here. Very unlikely to cause something, but you have to try. B morale level. So rolling on this one column here. So rolled an 8. So that's just a morale check, but no deductions. Oh, but look at the morale roll, a 61 on the B level. That's not good. 61, that's shaken and back 1. So that's catastrophic for the Army of Tennessee, because that's where our flank shot on our flank shot on Wilder's brigade was going to come from this hex, but McNair just got pushed out of that hex. So that is big for the Union. Everything is coming up Union this game so far, really. And shaken. Back 1. That was huge. So now this, let's see. So this is the B. Yeah. So we've got A, B fire. So we've got A fire level firing in here. B morale. So we've got 4 fire points. 9 on the 4 is 1. Rounding dice is of irrelevance. Straggler roll of 4 with B morale is 1. So 1 permanent, 1 straggler. Morale roll of 25 is no effect. And then we have to do our leader loss on Johnson. $12. Leaders wounded. That's just the same as them being killed. So we have to take this counter and flip it to its replacement with a decrease of command points. And then Greg gets 1 permanent loss. And 1 straggler. Which takes him down to A fire level. I should just save the game here. It tends to want to save, it's always save as instead of just save what actually I'll just cancel for now. Let's see, so did that, and now this Wilder will now fire on Trig. So that's A, so that's on the 4 column here. Trig is C morale level. 7 on the 4 is 1. Rounding dice is irrelevant. Straggler roll of 2 with C morale is nothing, so just 1 permanent loss for Trig, and a morale roll of 53 on the C is a shaken result. And then finally Wilder with B fire level, so that's on the 2 column against Gracie with B morale. Roll of 6. So that's a morale check with no modification, which is a 54. On the B, another shaken result. All right, so that's all the non-phasing fire that can be performed by the Union. So now the Confederate side does its phasing fire. So we'll move north to south like we did before. So we'll have A firing on the base unit has a morale level of C. So we're on the 4 column. 10. Result of 1.5. Rounding die says round down, so down to 1. Straggler result of roll of 5 with morale of 3 is 1. So 1 permanent, 1 straggler. Oh, look at this morale roll. And a morale roll of 64. Just wanted to that's a C, right? Yep. Oh, yeah. So we're on the C row here, and it's shaken, so it's down 1 row from the C. And then a 64 is disorganized back to straggle 1. That's a significant result. So one thing I want to check is just the morale state effects here. Let's see. No, that's not the one I want. Actually, I think there's one chart that's not already in the game. It's only in the rules, and it's, I believe if a unit starts as shaken and it gets a disorganized result, the end result is disorganized, but I just want to verify that. Yeah, in that case it's the worst of the 2. So that means that this unit, and it's an extended, it's an extended line, so I'll explain in a very short while what difference that makes. So this unit is disorganized, and it has to retreat 2 and straggle 1. So this unit here is forced to retreat 2. But in the Civil War Brigade series, this should be flipped back. It's an absolute requirement that that when you have extended lines like this, Well, actually, let me hold off on applying the retreat. Let me first apply the losses. Well, let's see. It actually won't make any difference. So that requires me to. It requires the rest of King's brigade to also retreat because the two counters have to stay contiguous to each other. They have to occupy adjoining hexes, um, which means which would the only way that can happen is for this unit to go back 2. So that's what's absolutely required in the counter. The disorganized counter follows the unit. And of course there's rules about how, this unit couldn't retreat like 1, 2 to, avoid all this happening. You can't do gamey stuff like that. Shouldn't even need to be in the rules, but, So Reynolds, I believe, is not required to retreat, nor is, the AB fire level. Wait, let me just check something here. I think I think this 3, thank God for these, 1, 3, 20. Actually, I retreated the wrong counter here. So he stays shaken. Sorry about that. These extended line markers can be confusing in this game. This was an extension of this unit here, so that requires, whoops, so we put a disorganized on here, as well as the B. I'll restack later. That requires this one to retreat 1. Wait, what have I got in here? 3, this one here. Okay. And I will check in the rules after this video is over about whether I put a disorganized counter on this one as well. I kind of forget that. This goes here. Now now the artillery does not have to retreat. It's optional. But generally speaking, it's not a good idea to. Well, let's see. Generally speaking, it's not a good idea to leave artillery alone in a hex. But the Confederates' movement phase is over, so the Confederates are not going to be able to attack here, and then the Union gets its turn, and it would have the option of moving before any, so it doesn't have to retreat, so I think we'll just leave it there. Yeah. So we did end up pushing Beatty's unit away from the Lafayette Road, at least momentarily, but of course in the next turn, Beatty will have a chance to reoccupy that hex. There's no advance after combat in this situation. Stuart does not get to move in here and occupy the hex, nor would he want to. He would be horribly flanked by Union forces on his, to his north and to his south as well as to the west, so that would not be a good move anyways. So now Bate with a fire level will fire on King. And we have to apply the losses up here. So it was 1 permanent and 1 straggler, I believe, to Beatty. All right, so that's that. Now, bait will fire on king, who has C morale level. So we're on the 3 to 4 column here. Rolled a 5. That's a half. Rounding down to no permanent losses. A straggler roll of 4 with C is probably going to be a 1. It is. So 1 straggler and a morale roll of 45 on the C means shaken. So shaken plus shaken equals shaken. Does not become disorganized as a result of that. I'm virtually certain. It's the one chart that they didn't put in the game. Maybe it's because it's not on the chart in the player aid in the physical copy of the game either. Yeah. Shaken plus shaken equals shaken. So just 1 straggler result on king. Is that right? Reynolds division. Boys suffered some losses already. So that puts king down to A fire level. Oh, we're just going to delete him. Alright, so finish with that fire combat. Now let's move down here. Robertson will fire on Carlin. And I don't think I've actually mentioned this before. When you have the reason why the infantry never fires on the artillery is because the artillery, I mean, in this example, it typically is that the artillery is at the bottom of the stack rather than the top. If the artillery were stacked on top of the infantry, then this, then in this case, Robertson could fire directly at the artillery to try to take out the artillery rather than firing at the infantry. But obviously, in this case, the artillery is stacked at the bottom. Now, if there were artillery along with Robertson, that artillery could individually, not in unison with the infantry, but the artillery all by itself could fire at the artillery in Carlin's hex, even though the artillery is stacked at the bottom of the hex. But the infantry doesn't have that option. So Robertson with A fire level will fire at Carlin, who's at C morale level, or who has C morale level. Not a good roll. So rolled a 7. That's a 1. Straggler roll of 2 on a C. I don't think is going to be anything. Nope. Then a morale roll of 1-1. That's a bloodlust on anyone. So that means that Carlin becomes bloodlusted, which is going to make him well. He was already pretty impervious to retreat because he's stacked with artillery, but this makes him, if anything, I believe this will make him even more impervious to retreat. Another blow for the Army of Tennessee. Now Law and A fire level will stack, well, not technically not Law, but Benning will fire at Heg, who has B morale level. Seven on the 4 is a 1. Straggler roll of 6 on a B is 1. So 1 permanent, 1 straggler, and a morale result of 15 on B is no result. So 1 loss, 1 straggler. Now we have to roll on the leader loss table. Rolled a 12, so Davis is wounded and replaced by a leader with equal value, so it doesn't really matter. So Heg will get 1 permanent loss and 1 straggler. Where's Heg? Davis is of course. So 1 permanent loss and a straggler. This unit does have line of sight to this unit, as well as this one, as well as this one. So we'll have A at range 2, so that's 2, plus B at range 1, that's 2 more, plus A, that's 4, so that's a total of 8. So we're on the 8 column here. We're going to have multiple shots on Wilder's extended brigade here. So this is the first one. And just for fun, I'll show you we'll compare the result depending on whether we had a flank shot or not. Does not affect the presence or absence of it does. It affects here too. If this B fire level or this A fire level, well, it'd also be closer. But even leaving that aside, well, we'd get 4 fire points instead of 2, and we'd get a +2 on the roll as well. So we'd be like up on this column here instead of this one. So it makes a difference even on the fire table. But we're on the 7 to 8 column here in reality. Rolled a 9. So it's 1.5. Rounds up to 2. Straggler roll of 1. Wilder has A fire level. A morale level. So that means nothing. So that means no stragglers. And a roll of 24 is with A morale level is no effect. So just Wilder takes 2 permanent losses for that attack. I think Wilder is all the way up here. Let's just put 2 permanent losses. Now, Trig with A fire level will again fire at Wilder. So that's the 3 to 4 column here. 7, that's a 1. Straggler roll of 6 with A morale. That's 1. So one permanent, 1 straggler. morale result of roll of 54, which is pretty good, but for A, 54 is shaken. So Wilder is shaken. And again, there's a pending question about that I need to research about. I think the more I think about it, the more I think that these temporary morale states are counter specific. So this counter is shaken, but these two aren't yet. Um, so we have to do our one permanent and one straggler loss on Wilder now. So that takes Wilder down to AA fire level from AAB, which means this is B, which I think the most natural thing to do would be to just put a B on here. We'll clean up later. And now finally this unit, which is A here and A here. Remember, this is an extension of this unit here, and it was a double A. So that's 8. We're on the 8 fire points. We're on this roll here, firing at this counter here. Roll the 7. So it's 1.5. Round up to 2. Straggler roll of 4. With A morale level is no stragglers. So just 2 permanent. Oh, but look at the morale roll. Double 6s. So we're on A, and they're just going to verify here, but no modifiers, right? It just occurred to me that when I did the fire combat for Wilder's brigade, they have repeating rifles, so there was the potential for more losses here, but I'm not going to go back and redo that. So we're on the A. 6-6 is disorganized back to straggle 1. So he gets a disorganized and has to go back 2. 1, 2. Whoops. Actually, first let me apply the losses. I should have done that already. It's usually better. I think, to, because that could even, well, I'm running into some questions I remember thinking about before with this series, which is, well, let me just do the losses first. So back to Wilder, 2 more permanent losses. Well, it's not going to affect anything here. Still be at AA fire level. 2 more permanent losses. The question I had in my mind that I wasn't sure about is, if we went down to like another fire level, then, I mean, one possible way of doing that would be to just eliminate this counter altogether. I don't know if would strategically that be the smart move. I don't know if that would be the smart move for the Union. I think probably not. It's moot. So anyways, but it is a result of uh, back 2 here. Actually, this B should be on top, I think, the way we've been doing it. Oh no, it's not how we've been doing it. I'm going to put him on the bottom. But the morale results should be on top. There. And now these units are required to retreat enough to maintain the contiguity requirements. So he'll go back 2, and he'll go back 2 to meet the requirement. And that is the end of the fire combat sequence. Oh, we didn't do the, well, too late now. I was going to do the hypothetical combat result if the initial attack on Wilder's brigade included a flank shot, but I forgot to do that. I apologize for that. So, let me just zoom out one here. So the Army of Tennessee was able to get some retreats. Now, unfortunately, there's no unfortunately for the Army of Tennessee, there's no mechanism in the game by which the Army of Tennessee could immediately exploit those results and say, for instance, move its artillery up. And so that's going to give the Union a chance, at least an opportunity, to move back into these hexes to prevent the Army of Tennessee from advancing its artillery, so that it can, start to fire into this clear area. And same goes up here. We did manage to throw back the Union, at least some of the Union, off the Lafayette Road, which is a good result for the Army of Tennessee. But it is going to, the Army of the Cumberland is going to have an opportunity to reoccupy those hexes in the following turn. This result here, the bloodlust here is, as I mentioned, unfortunate because my plan for the next turn for Robertson's brigade was to do a close combat here to try to shove this unit back. But now, if anything, there might be an opportunity for Carlin to close combat with Robertson and shove it back, because the fact that it's bloodlusted means that it would be even without it couldn't advance without its artillery into the close combat. But the fact that it's bloodlusted would mean it's very likely to when you're comparing when each side rolls morale, well, there's no chance that Carlin, if at close combats, would have to retreat out of the close combat hex. So it'd just be a question of whether Robertson could hold as well. Now, Robertson has morale A level as well, so his chances of holding are fairly good in the close combat, but we just have to see. But at least that would be that's going to be an option for the Union in the upcoming turn. So let's go to our sequence of play. So we finished the fire combat phase. So now we're in the rally phase, straggler recovery. We didn't place any straggler recovery markers for the Army of Tennessee, so there's no straggler recovery to perform. And then, so the Confederate side can rally, which is going to mean that all the shaken markers on the Confederate side come off. And that's true, and there's no restrictions on that. That's true even, for instance, even if it's like, adjacent to an enemy unit, it still gets to repair the morale results. So, I didn't mean to do that. And this one comes off. Oh, let's not make the same mistake. So that's that. I think I've mentioned this before, but this is the Confederate phase, so the Union does not get a rally phase. So all the morale results that it suffered as a result of the close combat, the close combats we just, or the fire combat we just did, persist into the next turn. So that's going to make, for instance, the counters that have disorganized markers are going to be virtually useless in combat until they can rally and get out of disorganized state. And maybe I'll pause right now and do that bit of research and just verify whether those disorganized states apply to the entire unit or they just stick to the counter. Just hopefully I can do this quickly. Extended lines. 17.2. So I'll read the rule here. This is 17.2a in the series rules. Extended lines behave as any other line unit with the additional requirement to be adjacent to the parent unit at the end of each phase. Extended lines fire, move, close combat, and have morale as would any unit. Morale results affect only the portion of the unit actually checking morale unless the extended line is reabsorbed, and then the regular morale effects on stacking are followed. If any part of the extended line unit is routed, the entire unit must collapse into the parent's hex and be routed. So with the exception of rout, morale states on like an extended line counter like here do not extend to the parent unit. So for instance, this counter will be very fragile in combat going forward. But this one, will not. This counter will not suffer the effects of its extended line. This regiment over here or whatever being disorganized. And that's it. That's the end of the turn. So I think we'll end the video here. Thank you for watching. Since my previous video, I've bought a new computer, and I'm hoping that it will result. And it's taken me several days to get it set up and get used to a slightly new operating system, and I think I've got a handle on it now. And I'm hoping that my new Mac will allow me to process and upload videos a lot faster than my old Mac will. But this will be my first time trying to do that process on my new Mac. So you can wish me luck in retrospectively, and I'll see you in the next video.